Broncos country. We're having a grand old time here, not because I don't know how to do math, but simply because in some ways I do know how to do math, and that the Broncos have won 5 games in a row now. 5 straight games, John. High five, because I don't know about you, but I am pretty damn excited about this.
I am amped, my friend. What is going on in Broncos country? What has happened the last month and a half?
Hey, we're going to break it down for you, everybody out there. We're going to share our thoughts on this week's Orange Weekly Bourbon Broncos No BS post-game podcast. Here we go. Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news. Okay, Broncos country, we are on a winning streak of huge proportions that we haven't seen in Broncos country in nearly a decade. I am confused by one thing, John. I was looking at our record, and for some reason, the first number is bigger than the second number. And I think that looks backwards, right?
I think it's an accounting error, I think is what they call that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
You know, whatever gets the job done. I don't know. I don't know what to do with my hands, Kevin.
The Broncos have a winning record in going into December. The only thing to do with your hands right now is clap. Give them a little golf applause, whatever you want to do. This team has the whole NFL talking about them in ways that we haven't seen them talk about the Broncos in, again, nearly a decade.
I don't think anyone in the league knows what to do about these Broncos right now. It's just like, well, they just keep winning. I guess they're legit.
And that's a question now, because let's rewind a little bit here. We beat Green Bay. Okay, it's Green Bay, whatever. We beat the Chiefs. Well, you got, Mahomes has a flu. Poor little baby, he's coughing and, he has a fever of 98.9 and it's just not a good day for him, right? Then we go on the road to Buffalo. We beat Buffalo. Yeah, well, that team is just banged up. They had a bad game, and 12 men on the field. If it hadn't been for the 12 men on the field, that would have, okay. Then last week, I think is when it really, really, really started to turn around, right? I don't know about you, but I think that's where obviously it's like, if they could go and beat the Vikings at home, in a big, close game like that, now it's like, hey, this team maybe is for real. And I think after yesterday's game, there's no question about it. There is no question about it.
Absolutely not. And after the Chiefs game, I was like, maybe it was a fluke. Maybe we're going to start going down. After the Bills game, though, it was like, okay, game on. I don't care what you say about the Bills. They're still the Bills. They put up a monster fight yesterday against the Eagles in a game that was just insane. We didn't get to watch it because we had more important things to do, you and I, Kevin. After that Bills win, it's all just been just glorious since then. The Vikings, yes. I mean, there were some people saying maybe we're going to start taking a tailspin after the Bills, but it's like, I still felt like if it was going to happen, it was going to be after the Chiefs. So, I was starting to believe at that point, especially after the Bills and then the Vikings. I mean, that just started proving the point. And yes, yesterday was just the most complete win I think we've seen in a while for this team. Defense, offense, maybe statistically not the most dominant game for the offense, but it didn't matter. We got the points. You score 29 points, nearly 30 points.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care how many yards you have. It's a good game. So,
exactly.
Fantastic team win yesterday.
The bigger thing, and I think the real reason people were talking about the Broncos, going into a tailspin or kind of going back to their old ways, especially after the Chiefs game, if not after the Bills game, was by then teams had more tape on us, right? They saw what we had changed, especially after our bye week. They saw what we had changed, what is working, what wasn't working. And, they had plenty of time. The Bills did, the Vikings did, the Browns did. They had plenty of game tape to figure out what it was we were doing, why we were succeeding, and stop it. And none of them have been able to do it. on top of all of that, we're looking better each week. It's not like we've plateaued at all. It'd be different. It's like, okay, teams figured us out, but we're really good at it, and we haven't improved anywhere. The defense is even more dominant than they were the previous week. The offense is putting things together at a remarkable rate over the past couple of weeks, what we're really dying to see and what we've been talking about, right? So that's where it's like, I got to sit here and say, I believe, man. I'm breaking it out again. I believe, okay? It's real. I don't see how this team can go backwards at all. I'm still, cautious about, are they going to plateau? But are they going to be able to continue this type of performance, both offensively, defensively, and on special teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing it with the defense. I think that's an area where it's like, I guess the only place they could get a lot better is definitely the run. It's still susceptible to run. We didn't see as much yesterday.
We'll talk about that.
Progress,
we'll
right?
Talk about it.
So you could say that the defense could start plateauing, but I still think there's a lot of improvement for this offense. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in a good way. I mean, they are playing better each week. I do feel that, but you and I talked about it. Like, if they're firing on all cylinders, if the defense is firing on all cylinders, like you're going to have a hard time finding a team that's going to beat us. And that's just how I feel right now. And you're right. Like, we get scared around this point every year. Not that we've been on a streak like this in a while, but the Broncos always give us room to be optimistic. And let's just say, I'll put it this way, Kevin, I'm ready to be vulnerable again. Okay.
Exactly. I'm ready to accept the hope that they're giving me, right? I'm ready to enjoy it and not be like waiting for the other shoe to fall, just waiting for the other foot to drop, whatever. Because the last couple of weeks, it's like, man, I'm just enjoying that win. This next week, I don't know what's going to happen. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, no, you know what? I know what's going to happen. This team's going to go out there. The defense is going to be solid. The offense is going to struggle at times, cough, cough, right before halftime, right after halftime. We're going to struggle there. And it's going to be a close game. And if it is, this team will find a way to do their absolute damnedest to win. Right. So if I'm any other team, like looking at having the Broncos on their schedule, I'm thinking, man, if it's anything less than a 2-possession game with 4 minutes on the clock, this Broncos team is, super dangerous. Right. So I know what to expect from this team now. It's no more of a question of, are they going to bring it today? I think it's how strong are they going to bring it today?
Yeah. Yeah, you put it well. Waiting for the shoe to drop is a good. For me, we're past that point. It's just not coming at this point. And what I love about this win streak is it actually has put us in a position where not every game is a must-win game, right? Like in the NFL, it's hard to keep a streak like this alive. Like, yeah, the more we continue this, though, the more it just gives us more of a cushion. And look, we're not in the playoffs yet, right? We're still the number 9 seed if the playoffs were to start today. So there's still work to be done for sure. But we keep this going. There's gonna be different conversations happening very soon about what position are we actually gonna be in going into the playoffs. Which, again, what team are we talking about right now, Kevin? Like, what?
Not the team where we're like 6 weeks ago saying, are they gonna trade PS2? Are they going to trade Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton? Heck, Bowles. Are they going to trade Bowles? We're ready to trade everybody. Right. Still thinking, is Vance Joseph on the hot seat? What can he do to recover and possibly find a way to keep his job going in the second year? This is not the same team in any way, shape, or form. From seeing that video of Garrett Bowles in the locker room, shaking his head, looking down, just saying, all I've done here is lose.
That's like the bottom.
All I've done here is lose. So
that feels like the bottom for this team this year.
And you know what? I'm glad they finally hit it. I'm glad they finally hit rock bottom because of the way they rebounded. If we had Hackett, if we had any of the other coaches we've had over the previous, 8 years or so, they would not have been able to rebound. I think it would have just been, we would have been, the Browns of the NFL, or, from, 10 years ago, or they're, 0-16, like that's what we would have become. Yeah. And we would have had 1, maybe 2 wins in the entire season. So huge prop to the coaching staff. That can't be understated or overstated enough, is just how vital it is to have, that we have good coaching, and it's showing in their attitudes, their performance, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Early on, this coaching staff had me questioning a lot of things. It just looked ugly, but I'm going to continue to say that I'm a believer, definitely a believer now, but this culture change, this winning culture that we've just developed in the last month and a half, you got to give all the credit to Sean Payton and the staff. And I can't say that. Honestly can't say that enough with this.
I tell you what, John, there is not a single player, a single coach, assistant coach, staff member, assistant, water boy, field technician. I don't care. There's not a single person within the Broncos organization that is not bought into what Coach Payton has done to this team. I guarantee it. And that is probably the biggest win of all. I mean, I was hearing Philip Lindsay talk about some of this on the way from driving errands today on the way home from work. And he was talking about how this is kind of like a Super Bowl moment for them. They're finally seeing all of the years of grinding and chopping away and just pushing through all of the negative crap, all of the losses, and these core guys that have stuck together on this team through the last 5, 6, 7 years, really seeing it all come together finally. And I got to tell you, that's the way Philip Lindsay was explaining it, it's got to make sense of they have got to be feeling it just so deep in their bones, like waking up and just being so utterly ready to go to work, like I am ready to show up and just get at it, because this next game, and we'll talk about next week's game later, but this is a position that they are chomping at the bit to keep this rolling. So,
and you can tell they're enjoying themselves too. They are amped. They're getting the fans into it. Every kickoff we saw, they're running down the field. They don't care if it's a touchback. They're getting the fans amped. They're sprinting the entire way down. They're like they are just enjoying the moment, which is good. But the other part of that too is that they're also staying focused, which I appreciate a ton. Again, going back to coaching, like every player is like, the job's not done. Like, yes, this is a great streak. Like, we're getting all our credit and all this stuff, but they're like, hey, it's just on to the next week, which is, you hear that all the time in the NFL, win or lose, honestly. But I really believe that this coaching staff is keeping them focused and on to the next one. And
it's obvious.
It's improving every week. Like, I think the proof is in what we're starting to see on the field. And finally, we have a win where it wasn't even close. Like, there were some
from that 2-point conversion fail attempt on Broncos. Just
by the
pure
end
Broncos.
of the game, it was not close. And look, there were factors going against us that we'll talk about, but screw them. Like, it didn't matter. We still blew them out of the water. A team that was getting a lot of credit for itself. Number one defense in the league. Didn't see that yesterday. One of the top, if not the top running teams in the league, didn't see that yesterday. So,
yeah,
curious what their game plan was, first of all. But second of all, like, our team showed up. For sure.
They're ready to go, and can't really explain what was going on with the Browns at all. But let's finally get into this, man. We've reveled, in the victory and what this means for the last 15 minutes. We haven't even talked about the game itself yet, other than just how crucial it was, how amazing it was. And before we dive into this, I do want to send a message to any of the Broncos fans who had tickets to yesterday's game and didn't go purely because it was cold. I get life, something happened, whatever, travel from the holidays. But if you're sitting at home and you had tickets to go to this game and you didn't go just because it was cold, man, you missed out. And I got to tell you, if any of you are the ones that have been complaining the most, saying, this team sucks, we need to fire people, blah, 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 and you didn't go to that game just because it was cold, you deserve to miss out on one hell of an experience. Neil, how you doing, man? Glad to see you on the chat. Dude, so 9,000 no-shows, and I am surprised that there were that many. just because we were on a 4-game win streak at that point,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
and how crucial this game was. So
what's it going to take? I mean, yes, it was cold. It's November. What do you expect in Denver, Colorado? You know, I did feel like a lot of fans showed up, you know, closer to the start of the game. The tailgate seemed a little bit light, but
and that's fine. Totally
that's understandable. I mean, yes, it was cold, but look, there's ways to combat the cold, right?
Yeah.
There's liquid ways to do it. There's
we found energy ways to do it, you know, through trying to be matching the obnoxious, whatever level of the person behind us that was that Browns fan. You know, we warmed up.
we warmed up. Yeah, it wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been. The sun was out, so no excuse for people not showing up. Especially,
come on, Broncos country, do better. Do better.
It's going to take more than a 4-game win streak, a 500 record for what we've seen over the last few years. Like, if you're not excited now, like, time to get rid of those season tickets is all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now that I got off, and let me get off my little soapbox there of just like, come on, guys, come on, let's go. 5-game win streak. Man, that place, I know Christmas Eve is probably going to be tough. I would give people a pass on Christmas Eve. But that New Year's Eve game, last game of the season, man, everybody had better show out. That not an empty seat in the place is what I want to see end of the season. But let's go into the game here, man. I know we kind of talked about it earlier on in our moment of just, joy, celebration moment, which was quarter of an hour. We're walking in the stadium. You're going to the game with me. It's going to be a great time. What are you thinking as we head into the game, man?
Yeah, I mean, just wanting to see improvement on the offense, continuing the defense. I think there was a little bit of concern going into this game because what seemed to be the Browns' strength on both sides of the ball was supposedly the Broncos' weakness going into this game, right? I was concerned about how well they were going to run against us. We saw it last week against the Vikings. We've seen it in other games this year. Not our strong suit on defense, but by any means, I think that's easy to say. And then on the opposite side of the ball, you have a guy like Garrett over there, Myles Garrett, supposed to be defensive MVP shortlist guy. The pass rush, very concerning. And we saw it last week again against the Vikings. Like, they had a very unique approach to how they rush the quarterback, which wasn't unique to the game against us. That's just how they play defense. The Vikings, that is. And I thought we were going to see more of that with the Browns. And I don't know if it was preparation. I don't know if on our part, if we just came out ready for this one. But those were my concerns going into the game. At the same time, like I said earlier, this didn't feel like a must-win game. Yes, we wanted to keep the streak going, but we put ourselves in a position where, not every game is a playoff game, in my opinion. Now, I'd love to win out the season and go 12-5. Like, that'd be amazing. but yeah, I don't know, Kev. I think I know where your answer is going to go with this. But what were your thoughts walking into the stadium?
Yeah, and before I do, I just want to remind everyone, for the pregame podcast show or a postgame podcast show here, we don't spend too much time on the comments. For everybody who is commenting here, and we're going to touch on some of these throughout the show. So stick around for sure. But make sure you check out our Tuesday night show, Bourbon Broncos No BS, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, every Tuesday night. That's where we're very focused on all the comments and everything. So that's where your chance to come on in and share your thoughts and everything. So I definitely appreciate everybody's support who is watching us live. We do this Mondays at 8 p.m. Or the day after the game, normally at 8 p.m. or so. If you guys want to check us out live and you're listening to us on one of the podcast platforms, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, whatever it is, appreciate you tuning in. So with me walking into the game, man, I was a little more on the side of this is a playoff game because it was an AFC game. It wasn't, it wasn't the Vikings, where it was an NFC team, right? And just knowing that the Browns have the number one defense in the NFL and everything. This is a playoff type of environment game, right? These are the teams that we're probably going to see again in the playoffs if we get there. I'm still going to say if, because I don't want to jinx anything. But you could possibly expect a Browns versus Broncos rematch, and it might be in Cleveland. Okay. And that might be a very different, feel and different environment. So for us to go out there and handle it the way we did, like that's what we were expecting. That's what I was hoping for anyway, going into that game, because that kind of mentality and the way that they put that on the field, it was going to tell me where they fall in terms of actually being prepared for the playoffs. Okay. One of the good things that, I was thinking about as well going in, before the game, was this team is really learning how to win in those close game situations. And we look at, teams like the Bills, for example, and I keep mentioning them as a perfect example for this. They're a team that when they get a good lead, they know how to keep a good lead more often than not, but when they're in those close games, they just don't know really how to battle through those tough, close games. And look at what happened in Philly last night. Yeah, there's reffing things and whatnot, but look, Josh Allen is 0 for 6 in OT games. They just don't know how to battle through. And so when you get to those playoff games are all just those super close, really competitive games more often than not. You're not going to have blowouts, especially when you're fighting, teams for a playoff spot. So for us to go out there again and just keep it close at the very minimum was key for me in seeing what these guys were, and how I was going to compare them to any playoff talk down the line.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and here's the deal. We still wanted to make sure that they're competitive, but going to this game, this is supposed to be one of the harder teams we had left on our schedule, right? In my opinion, probably them and the Lions probably throw a Charger game in there as well. So don't get me wrong. I don't want them to take their foot off the gas. It just, as a fan, it wasn't like I was going to be like devastated with a lot. Like, wasn't like, the season's over with this loss. We had to win out, that type of situation, which is kind of rare, a rare feeling for me in the last few years to be feeling that way at this point in the season, right? We're going to have a winning record going into December. Like, what? And we were at
one of 4 teams to have a winning, shutout wins in November, perfect record in November. You could say to see the Broncos in that category, no one would have thought a 1-5 team would, and in fact, we're one of 5 teams since 1966 to go on a 5-game winning streak after starting 1-5. So this is rare. This is incredibly rare. And I think this is finally what you're seeing when I'm talking about once the team gets this going and gets it together and then has a whole off season to really hone that with that confidence and the momentum, that's where you're going to see, I don't know, man, you're going to see some really, really great things from the Broncos for the, coming years. Sean Payton, I think, is solidifying, obviously this is just his first season here, and I'm trying not to get too excited and say like he's going to be the next, 20-year head coach Broncos, but you're looking at a man that, we don't have to worry about hiring another head coach in the next year or two.
I think we're past that point. Yes.
But it's crazy to think about, it's crazy that when I open up the ESPN app to go to the standings page, because I want to see how close the Broncos are, I haven't done that in 7 years, John. I've had no reason to look at the standings page of ESPN with the Broncos because I knew we were at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, trust me, I'm right there with you, and I want to see this momentum continue. You got the Texans coming up, and then the Chargers after that. Like, it feels like we can continue this thing, Yeah. And then the Lions after that, and that's going to be. I mean, I'm not trying to overlook these next 2 games at all by any means. I still want to go out there and just dominate, like we finally saw against the Browns. I want to continue to see that against the Texans. Let's see that against the Chargers, and that Lions game, I feel like that's got to get flexed to the Sunday night slot, right? Like, depending on
how the next 2 games go. Yeah.
I think it's already there. I think it's already going.
I'm not even gonna throw that in the universe, but let's go back to the Broncos' actual dominating performance.
You want to talk about those games more? Okay.
Let's talk about the games some more. So, game starts. Broncos win the coin toss again.
Every week.
That's just the thing that's happening for us this year. I think we only lost once, if not twice. So, we knew we were going to get the ball after halftime, which we knew meant that we weren't going to score right before or right after halftime. But So keeping that in mind as the game started, defense goes out there and just right from the get-go handles business.
Handles business, 3 and out. And this, I'll go back to the comment I made earlier about the Browns game plan going into this game. You're one of the top running teams in the league, and you come out throwing the ball with your backup rookie quarterback. I was very confused by that. It's almost like they were playing the game of, well, we know that they know that we know they know that we're going to run the ball. And it's like, why are you playing this game? Just play your, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to come out there and just dominate on the ground. And look, if they think they're going to catch us off guard by throwing the ball, we can overcome that much easier than the other way around. So, yep. And the other thing I loved about that, I think there were 2 plays by PJ Locke coming back from injury. I was shocked to see him out there, man, warming up. It was he's looking good warming up. Is he going to be out there to start the game? And he was, and he showed up big on that first drive. Amazing to see. Super excited to have him back. So especially with the Kareem Jackson. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Richie.
Kind of.
Richie's always good for a good laugh. But yeah, with the Kareem Jackson suspension, it's just so huge and important having PJ Locke. And he showed up that first drive and kind of set the tone for what to expect from him the rest of the game. I felt.
For sure. There's really, nothing to say for the defense other than just, hands down, fantastic play right from the get-go. And you contribute that again to coaching as well.
Yeah. One negative there, Kev. Yeah. For the first time in 3 games, we didn't get a turnover in the first drive. Is this? I think that's that plateau we've been talking about. They
did plateau. They did plateau.
They're not getting a turnover on the first drive anymore. I don't know if McMillan is just. I guess he's done playing this year. I guess
you didn't get any interceptions
turnover on the first drive. What's that about? I think there's some real concerns there. But no, yeah, we forced the punt.
I can't believe we're talking about it.
Yeah, I hope everyone knows I'm being sarcastic right now.
I know, yes, definitely, but still, oh my god.
Can't say enough about Locke on that first drive, and then we get the ball back, and that first drive for the Broncos was huge. I think we're leading the league in first drive points to the point where the last 2 games, we get those turnovers and we're in field goal range and we don't score a touchdown. People are like, "What's wrong with this offense?" It's we still get points on the first drive, let's calm down a little bit, but we take it all the way, from the punt to touchdown on a nice 5-minute drive, 80 yards. It's back to what we saw earlier on in the season from the offense to start out games. They came prepared, and it was phenomenal. I think we're going to talk a lot about this subject potentially tonight, but some people saying we got a little bit favorable call on the pass interference against the defense on this drive that led to the touchdown. But I don't know. People said it was soft. I'll tell you right now in the stadium, and that's where we have to rely on the rest of our crew who wasn't at the game to see the other angles. But in the stadium, it looked like a pretty clear PI to me. But
I thought so.
I
think there were some questionable calls both ways. I think there were more questionable calls against the Broncos in the first half than there were in the second half. I'm just going to think about that offensive pass interference on Cortland Sutton, which was you gave him a nice little pat on the back, hey, good job keeping up with me. That's all. Just, hey, good job, and throw the flag for that. You're okay, now, come on. What are you looking at?
I've heard of a makeup call, maybe 2, if it's really bad, but I don't know. I felt like there were 5 or 6 makeup calls for that one, maybe soft PI that went the Broncos' way to start the game. And I've never booed the refs harder in a game than
that was
I was right there in the stadium too, because there were some serious questionable decisions made.
For sure.
And I've heard some conspiracies is this the NFL getting back at the Broncos for the Kareem Jackson stuff this year?
Yeah.
And we heard that on the radio, right? Leaving the stadium. I don't think I'm there yet, because honestly, this season, it just feels like there's been some sketchy reffing across the league in every game.
Just look at the Bills game last night.
It's
Looks like the worst caller to me.
It's just like, I feel like maybe this has happened in previous seasons, and I maybe was just more oblivious to it. But I don't know. I don't know what maybe it's because they change a handful of rules every year. Like, I don't envy these guys for trying to figure out how to call games every year, but it just seems like it's more this year than we've noticed in previous seasons.
For sure. No, it's interesting, but kind of the theme for the game was, the Broncos found a way to win and win pretty dominantly despite the refs.
Right.
It wasn't we lost, and if that one call would have gone our way, that would have been, we should have won. Well, you can't just rely on the refs to give you the winning, decision. So to see a team go out there and win despite the refs and keep their composure and keep playing hard throughout to the very end of the game was really good to see, and shows a lot of just maturity with where this team's confidence is and everything. So
100%. There were penalties that killed some of our drives. There were penalties that extended some of their drives, and really, I think a different Broncos team that we've seen in previous years would have not been able to overcome that.
Nope.
Nope. And yeah, you're right. To see them handedly win this game in spite of that was a big indication of where this team is at.
Yeah. Let's see. Now we talked about the Broncos not getting a turnover on the very first drive or the very first play. In fact, there has been some regression there. It was the very first play, then it was the next game. It was the first drive. So, compared to this, but we did get a turnover on the Browns' second drive. So there is a steady decline, cause for concern. Maybe, I don't know yet. Just saying, it's what the numbers show. I'll create a graph if you need, John. Okay. We got the turnover. We got the turnover.
We did get the turnover. I will say in this game, it felt like the turnovers we did get were more a product of the opposing team as opposed to our defense dominating. I've never seen, well, I shouldn't say that. It's very rare to see a team on a 4th and 1 who's very clearly going for a QB sneak to fumble the snap. And it's probably a product of, a rookie backup quarterback, not being as, confident or getting that exchange from the center as I have a hard time believing if Deshaun Watson was out there that play is going that same way. But at the end of the day, we're not playing Deshaun Watson. We're playing
exactly
Thompson, which I had to look up what his name was.
Yeah, I did.
Robinson, that's right. And they get the fumble, we get the ball back, and now all of a sudden we're in a good position for our offense to go out there and then fumble the ball themselves.
No, we're going to skip over that. We're going to skip over that. We're going to forget about what happened 4 plays later. We get the ball back from a punt from the Browns, and then here we are again. Dude, almost a 6-minute drive, 13 plays, 80 yards, setting us up for another touchdown. And I was just hoping to go to a 10-0 lead. Honestly, it's like if we can just get into field goal range, because it seems like the Broncos, do really good first drive and then they kind of stall out, right? And that's what we'd seen. We saw the fumble and everything. So now it's like, okay, they're starting back at their 20. Can we just at least get a field goal range to make this a 2-possession lead? And they did, just in a much better way than I expected.
Yeah. Real quick, because I have to mention it. That fumble that Russ had, I know you don't want to talk about it. That was a defensive play. I'm sorry. I do not. You cannot.
Yeah, it was.
Russ. Any Russ haters out there, which I think
that's why I didn't want to talk about it.
I think there's less.
I don't want to give Browns credit.
These games go. These games go on, but to move on to that long touchdown drive. One thing that we saw early on in this game that we really haven't seen in the last couple of weeks is Samaje Perine. They basically said, look, you've been playing at a level where you deserve the ball more. And they're giving it to him early on, which I love to see. And not just in the passing game, 3rd down or on drives where we need to throw the ball to get a come back in the game. I mean, he rushed 55 yards on 7 carries, like 8 yards a carry almost. I love to see that. I love to see them rewarding a guy that that is playing at a high level and continuing that, right? And showing that he can be a difference maker in a game early on. It was great to see. I just can't shout out Samaje Perine enough in this game. But the other thing that happened on this touchdown drive was an amazing catch by Adam Troutman. Like, is this the Cortland Sutton effect?
It's spreading.
Is he rubbing off on guys on the team?
I think he is. Both literally and figuratively. I don't know. But whatever they're doing, it's working.
What's the literal? Can you explain the literal part?
I don't know. I don't want no. It's a secret. It's a team secret. I don't know what they're doing, man.
From there, I guess, but
I don't know because that was, you couldn't have been any closer, and it was perfect. I was thinking, that second foot was up, and you're like, no, it doesn't have a touchdown. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like now that I see it, it's clear as day. So kind of interesting call on the field, but they got it right with the replay, and it was a great challenge, perfect challenge by Sean Payton there.
Honestly, you see one replay of it, and you're like,
done.
That's a catch. And honestly, I don't think Troutman even knew that he had a catch. He didn't come off the field like challenge it. He was like, "Yep, I guess I was out of bounds." Like,
not until he saw the replay too, because I saw once they did the replay, I looked down and they were all celebrating, like they were like, "That's
them."
And if the players are like, "Yeah," so
they cut to commercial break and they come back. It's like that's gonna be a touchdown.
Exactly. So that was, look, I think at that point, anybody who was watching the game would have been like, what is happening here? This is not what we expected at all. It's not 14-14. Broncos are shutting them out, this far into the game. And again, just huge props to the defense for doing everything that they can do. And then letting the offense kind of work through their pains, their growing pains that they deal with each week, and figure it out and come together and march down the field for a touchdown, man. Fantastic to see.
Yeah, it was great to see. And then I think I jinxed us at this point, Kevin, because this is about the point where I really pointed out that I guess we're just not going to see them run the ball today. The Broncos, that is. And then they pretty much marched right down the field running the ball. I was like, oh, no, they figured they did come ready to run the ball. But what I loved about this drive and the next defensive drive, these next two, they didn't look pretty at times for our defense, and we talked about this multiple times during the game. It was that whole bend, don't break mentality. Yes, it was looking ugly. It's like they're going to score, but then we force them into field goal situations. So I just love that when our offense is performing finally, that this defense can complement it and vice versa. So
the defense isn't letting up. The defense isn't going, the offense is doing a better day, we don't have to play to the same level. No, the defense is not letting up a single bit, and that's great to see.
Yeah. And that pretty much closes out the first half. Basically 2 long drives by them, 2 field goals. We end the half 14-6. A little concerned. Again, I feel like it's time and time again where it feels like we should be way farther ahead at halftime, and it's only a 1-score game. Nonetheless, we take the lead into halftime, and I got to tell you, this was a perfect time to close to the start of the third quarter. A good tip for anyone going to the Broncos games. That's the perfect time to hit the bathroom break. Everyone goes right at the start of halftime. The lines get out the door. What you really want to do is wait until right before the third quarter starts. That allows you to miss the Broncos' first offensive drive, which is going to be crap. And you skip the lines a little bit. Maybe you have time to even grab a beer or some food. I don't know. And then get back to your seats before the second half really starts. The first defensive drive, and then onward from there for our offense. Just pro tip, anyone going to the games, it worked out well. I didn't have to watch a hideous first drive from what I literally have not watched the highlights from that first drive. Kevin,
there were no highlights in that part of the game. It was a 3-and-out. It was okay. That's what we expected. That's par for the course there. Yeah, good job, Broncos. Get the defense back out there. They'll do the job. And they didn't there. They're looking pretty, that run game was really kind of showing through. Browns had a 6.5 minute drive of their own, marching down the field for the touchdown. And I tell you what, that 2-point conversion, I said at the beginning of the show, that play was a huge game changer. I can't believe that he dropped that ball, man.
I couldn't believe that. And it was almost like back-to-back plays. The touchdown, and this seems to happen at least once a game where our defense just has 1 or 2 drives where it's just like, where's this coming from? Like, you guys have been playing well all game, and then you have something like that happen. But yeah, the touchdown pass was just wide open. And then that 2-point conversion, wide open. Their best wide receiver, Amari Cooper, drops it. Could not believe that. That's the guy that's supposed to be your clutch receiver, right? Like, how?
Yeah.
That's baffling. But it changed the tide a little bit, because I think that was one point in the game where it felt like you get a little bit worried, right? Are they gonna? Are we gonna make this another close game?
Yeah. Well, they came back. It was 14-0, and they had come back, and now all of a sudden it's
14-12. Really, should have been 14-14.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and now you're talking about the Browns saying, "Cool, it's basically 0-0. We're back in this. We got our run game going. Let's go out there and keep doing this. And start fresh." So the fact that they weren't able to do that, they went back to the sideline, down by 2, and a huge confidence boost, or morale boost it gave to the Broncos there. So on paper, it was still close. We go down there, we get a field goal. Okay, it's 17-12. That's still a 1-possession game,
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, getting points there felt good. Just to say, okay, we're not about to have this next quarter, maybe even half, be a one where our offense disappears again. One thing I want to point out from this drive, we didn't get the touchdown, but we did get in field goal range. We got the points. It was a 70-yard drive. It was a long drive. It was, another 5-minute drive. We also saw some contributions from guys that we don't always get to see. Lil Jordan Humphrey, he has a big, I think it was a third down play.
Was
2nd and 6, but still.
Oh, okay.
It looked like he was going to take it like for another 10 or 20 yards. But just wanted to point out, him playing, and then finally, like, not necessarily on this drive. Well, maybe he was on this drive, but Marvin Mims, we got more involved on the offense, not just in the punt returning game, kick returning game. Like, they were giving him the ball. He had, I think, a drop pass early on in the game, but they kept going back to him. He had multiple opportunities where he started to make an impact. In fact, more of an impact than Jerry Jeudy. I don't know where Jerry Jeudy was this game, but Marvin Mims just loves. We don't have to dwell on Jerry Jeudy. Not where I was trying to go with that, but I was saying, love seeing guys like P. Ryan, Mims, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Adam Troutman with a huge catch. Like, multiple guys are getting involved. And yes, again, not a huge statistical game maybe, but you see the impact from other players on the team. So, let's, again, get these guys going.
That's exactly what happened there, because look, the defense goes out there and forces another fumble, followed by the Broncos going down to get another touchdown. That was the point where it's like, I think instinctually, I'm like, here's hope. And I'm like, I'm waiting for them to dash it, you're trying to tell me, calm down, enjoy being ahead. I'm like, how can you calm down? Like, the Broncos are going to find a way to blow this. And it's like, no, they're not.
I don't think we were there yet.
They're not.
I definitely,
looking back now, at knowing knowing the outcome of the game and how it went. Yeah. Like, we're not that team anymore. Kevin, I'm not going to say we're going to win every game. There's not going to be a game where somebody doesn't blow it, but at that moment, it's like, these guys have figured it out.
Well, Kev, I will say, the conversation that you and I had, I think, was later in the game, because being up 5 points would not have been a situation where it's
I'm talking about when it was 24-12.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we can. Yeah.
After that next fumble.
Yeah. Okay. But can we talk about that? Like, again, what are the Browns doing there with that fumble? It was the most bizarre trick type play. And it's, again, like, why? Why are you guys playing the game you play?
I don't know.
That should have been a scoop and score. we got the recovery, but that should have been one of our easier like scoop and score situation. I'm not upset that we didn't get it, of course, because we recovered the fumble. Yes, we didn't get the touchdown from the defense, but you're right. We've seen when we get a short field for our offense lately, them not to be able to finish the drive and start putting games away. So this was the beginning of that, and really when the Browns fumbled, at that point I started getting a little bit more of the confidence of like, oh, this might be the way that this game goes. So, but yeah, you force your offense into a position where they only have to go 20 yards to get the touchdown. Another Marvin Mims getting involved, end around play for 11 yards, first down. Javonte Williams, and then we were off here, Kevin, because this is the drive that Adam Troutman scored. What was the previous touchdown that we already talked about?
I think that was the rush. Or no, that was Russ's. Was that Russ's?
That was his end around play.
Yeah,
that's right. Okay, so we're off a little bit there. We can cut that and put it.
Cut that.
Move them around, right? Is that how that works?
I'll hire someone. I'll hire someone to do that.
Too much work. We'll just say we're idiots, and
people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we'll just say we're idiots and move on. But I guess one thing I did want to point out is the game planning in this game. We saw 3 or 4 plays where it was an option play for Russ. It's up to him if he's going to hand it off or take it. And we haven't seen that a ton this year. I'd love for us to incorporate that more. Kind of what we saw last week with the Vikings that didn't work was, we really committed to the bubble screens last week, which was really annoying. This week, though, this part of the game plan was smart and it did work, and it caught their defense off guard. And I think it was a way to really suppress that front seven that they have, because now they have to look. Russ is getting up there in age. You don't expect him to be taking off.
What are you trying to say?
He can still run. But you don't expect that as much.
You try to say I'm getting up there in age? He's 1 day older than me, which, by the way, happy early birthday to Russell Wilson. He's going to be turning 35, which is not that old.
Okay. Not that old. Kind of old for football years.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm not saying you're going to die of old age tomorrow, Kevin. But if you're on the football field, your bones might
probably. Yeah.
Okay, so all right. So we were off. This was the play to Troutman, and that's right. And after that touchdown, I was like, we have this game in hand. Like,
yeah.
This is when we started having the conversations of like, don't let off the gas, defense. Like, and I'm trying to tell you to look, we're up by 2 scores. We're gonna be all right.
Yeah, but look at how much time is on the clock.
No, it's true. It's true. But yeah. And then it was kind of just some punting back and forth, and then nothing super crazy. We do get another fumble.
I mean, that's okay though. It's like we're not getting much, but we're not giving an inch.
We're not giving. And that's right. And then that's when we saw. Again, was this? Yeah, this was the drive where we had that. Again, going back to reffing, late hit. It was a long third down. It was like 3rd and 25 or something like that.
Yep.
No, 3rd and 14. It felt longer, honestly.
Oh, it's because they moved so far up after that penalty that made it seem worse.
Yeah, I think I'm off again. But anyways, sorry. The whatever that play happened, it's just so angering. Like he did, like what the hell are these guys supposed to do? He they say that he lunges at him, like because he had 1 foot off the ground. Yeah. And I get it, it leads to a concussion. The NFL is trying to limit these things, but they didn't know that at the time. Like it looked like a relatively clean football hit. So I don't know.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there. It was, and that's where we get to the talk of, you can call it conspiracy theory, but the evidence is kind of like, hey, are you guys just like waiting for us to have a hard hit so you can be like, oh yeah, well, we'll just call that, and get back at you guys? Is it really the NFL is upset that, all the other teammates took to social media, like they were saying, to, so support show support, for Kareem Jackson there. So I don't know, man. It might be one of those things where if it had been any other ref, they wouldn't have thrown that flag, and I think that's obviously much more likely. Obviously, I think it's way too soon to say, yeah, the whole NFL is obviously out to get us.
I think it
because
is.
at the same time,
a few more weeks.
We're their biggest moneymaker right now. When, people are, when they're looking for something to watch, they're scrolling through something, they see something about the Broncos, like real diehard NFL fans are like, what's going on with the Broncos? What is this? We're a huge moneymaker for them right now. So if anything, I would think that they'd be trying to, if they're going to talk about conspiracy theories, they wouldn't be trying to tear us down. But I don't know. So it's either way, it was a very call,
But we had a lot of those. We had a lot of those yesterday, and it's just like there's way too many here.
Yeah.
And again, another play that extends the drive. And I think I'm a little late here, but I don't know. I think we've talked about reffing enough, but we'll see moving forward. Like if this kind of stuff continues where they're calling, a little bit differently for the Broncos than they are everybody else. Like, again, I still say the NFL reffing this year has been sketch, to say the least.
Again, just look at the Eagles-Bills game.
I don't think it's focused solely on the Broncos, but we saw a lot of them yesterday.
For sure.
But yeah, and then once he was out of the game, like, sucks. You never ask for an injury for a player. He's also the backup quarterback. Like, that's not a guy you want to you don't want any guy out of the game because of injury, but once we saw their third string in there, like it really was like
that was it.
It became even easier for this to go the way we wanted it to.
Well, at that point, the defense just brought the rush.
Yeah,
and he's 4 sacks for 28 yards loss and a safety. Like we were just able to bring the house. He wasn't. Teams really only have 2 quarterbacks. They have their main quarterback, and the backup quarterback should be the guy that is supposed to go out there for a game and not lose the game for you, right? Like he's not going to do anything amazing, but he's also not going to turn the ball over 20 times.
Yeah, and this guy comes in.
When you get to the third string is a placeholder. Third string's an emergency guy who just, hey, if we absolutely need you, we'll bring you up off the practice squad and see what happens.
He was technically the backup for this game, though. It's not like Deshaun Watson started the game.
But the third stringer,
he starts the season as a third string. I forgot PJ Walker was on the Browns. I had to see. We were trying to figure out for the longest time who number 10 was.
Who is it?
I honestly thought it was Joe Flacco. I thought we were about to see Joe Flacco enter the game, and that was going to be something special.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
So I'm a little bummed because it would have been a lot more fun to do what we did against Joe Flacco than PJ.
Sack him 4 times. Yeah, that would been great.
But no, defense did what they were supposed to do, right? The opposing team's in a position where they have to throw the ball. Like they're 2 scores down, and we just brought the rush. Fine, and then. I'm a little annoyed. We still getting frustrated that we're not bringing the rush more earlier on in the game. Really focusing on turnovers more, and then all of a sudden we start bringing the rush when the game's in hand. Not sad that they're doing that, by the way, but I just want to see more of it earlier on. But it doesn't matter at this point because now it's just every play they are just bringing it hard, and it leads to a safety later on in the game. I think we all saw it coming. I think we called it 3 plays in a row.
You called it, yeah.
We got about 3 plays in a row and it finally happened on the third. But again, we were just so happy at that point because the game, there were some people in the stands don't turn off the gas, don't talk. We're up by 15, 4 minutes left in the game. I'm feeling pretty good. We can start really enjoying this now. Not that we weren't, but we can really have fun with it. And you start seeing it. You started seeing it in the stadium. I honestly, one of their last few possessions when we were up, I think by 15 at that point, and it's their first play of the drive, and this stadium was still rocking. And I was like, this is kind of impressive. You guys are still, the fans were still in it. They're still being loud as hell. And it feels like a game that we've almost already won. You almost have to knock on wood there at that point, but it was just great to see.
Everyone's feeling it.
Yeah.
This is where Neil was asking earlier how loud it was there. It was I mean, I haven't been to a game with that intensity and that morale among fans since the 2015 game against the Bills, where he won in overtime. It was the second to last game of the season. We were hoping Peyton Manning was going to be back, but he wasn't. He didn't come back to that next week against the Chargers. We got to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. But obviously, like that was, we were on a run there. End of the season, big game. That stadium was crazy. This was just as crazy, the incomplete chance, it's all the Browns fans around us going, are they going to do that every time? And there's comments like,
that's so unoriginal.
Stop throwing the ball. Just run the ball so they won't do the incomplete chant. And it's like, that just makes me do it louder.
Yeah.
Do you not realize I'm just going to do it? I'm going to find a way to be louder than I already can be.
Yeah.
We
got put in a section with some obnoxious Browns fans. Let's put it that way. And it just, at first it was like one of those things where it's like, I just want to turn around and strangle this guy. But at a certain point we flipped the switch and we're just like, fuck it. We're just going to be louder. That's just going to like drive us to be even more annoying back to you and just be more obnoxious with these incomplete calls. And they were so mad about the incompletes. And it's like, just throw some more completions. Don't drop so many balls and we won't have to chant this so many times. Like, I don't know what you want us to do. We're not going to be quieter. This is upsetting them. We're going to stop saying this so loud. No, absolutely not. Like, we only got louder and louder. Kevin, I thought you were going to turn around. I don't know how many times you turned around.
There were two moments. There were two moments.
Allows the fans to be louder in the.
I did. So I do, and I do that. I do that all the time.
I know you do.
So for everyone out there, like, I didn't turn around to get the fans behind me louder to instigate him at all. I do that all the time. I did make sure to not even make eye contact with them. Like, I looked straight. I looked all the way to the back to make sure they knew I wasn't even looking at them. Okay. Because I was I thought about, like, they're going to turn around and be like, you sort of, and just, punch me square in the face. That would have been a bad move for them because I just pulled them down. They would have fallen down 10 rows, See,
I thought about that, Kevin, but they had the height advantage. They were one level up, They would have had the terrain on
that. Worked well for Darth Vader, didn't it?
That's a fictional movie, Kevin. I hate
doesn't Obi-Wan say, I have the low ground? Don't do it, Anakin. I have the low ground. Is that how it goes?
No.
I'm not a nerd or anything.
I don't think
all those out there.
No, it was great. I think we both had different points of the game where, like, someone might kill these guys behind us.
It might be me.
We're like, okay, let's calm down. Like, luckily it wasn't a close game because I don't know. Like, I think there were some rowdy moments like throughout the stands. I think.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It early on in the first half, especially, it felt like it was a little dicey, but the farther our league got ahead, like, they had nothing to stand on.
And then they shut up, and then they
finally like shut up. And one of my favorite parts of the whole game was 2 minutes and 55 seconds left in the game, and they finally say, "Well, should we just leave?" It's like, that's right.
There's the door.
See you later. Yeah.
I'm not going to get any quieter. I'm going to, be just as loud in celebration now you're gone. But, dude.
And that's like the best feeling. It's like, this is what it feels like to handedly win a game. I think I've said that phrase three times today, but it's just such a good feeling to not go down to the wire week in and week out. Like, I want to see this continue. Take it to the Texans next week. And do the same. Now, totally different type of a team. It'll be really interesting. I'm excited for it. A team that has an offense that is kind of surging. Maybe they didn't play great this weekend against the Jaguars team, but interesting to say the least. A rookie quarterback. I think it's always fun to see a rookie quarterback when you have a good defense. I know they get excited in those type of situations, but he can run the ball. They've been throwing well. They have like 4 or 5 different receivers that can go off on any game out of nowhere, by the way. Like, Nico Collins is the only one I've heard of prior to this year, really. That's probably not true. But, not guys that not a team that you expect to be doing what they're doing right now. So that's exciting to see. I think that plays to our strength, though. I think our defense can definitely handle it. And I don't know much about this Texans defense. I mean, I will learn this week for sure. But what are your thoughts going into this? You know, is this kind of a game that might be playing to the Broncos' strengths?
So the question I think is, should the Broncos be more worried about CJ Stroud, or should the Texans be more worried and afraid of the Broncos as a whole? Who has upper hand here? To me, I think the Texans should be more worried about the Broncos, because the Broncos defense is our secondary is solid. Okay. You're going to have to really rely more on your run game if you're the Texans to find a way to beat us. Because if you don't, look at the Browns. Okay. If the Texans try to do what the Browns did and throw on us at the beginning of the game, the same thing's going to happen. I firmly believe that. Yeah. So I don't think that, look, giving credit to CJ Stroud, I think he's going to get a few past us, right? This might be a closer game than we saw against the Browns, but I think this Broncos defense is up for the challenge and going to be able to. Now, if we can find a way to get that pass rush like you're talking about early to Stroud over there, get in his face a little bit, throw him off, that's going to help us out, right? But look, CJ Stroud's dangerous. I don't want to overlook him,
for sure,
but we'll talk about that more. That's kind of where I'm at, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I kind of like it because it puts us in a situation where we can't overlook this team. I think any other team, any other season, if we were in this situation, it's like, okay, you might feel like the Texans are a team that's like, this is an easy win. It's definitely not the situation this year,
no.
The way they're playing right now. So I'm excited for it. Yeah, I agree. And we're going to get into it in tomorrow's show. We'll get into it in the pregame podcast and the tailgate, of course. But it's just going to be another great week to be a Broncos fan.
I'm firmly thinking right now, not only am I enjoying this win, but I'm really looking forward to this next game, because just like the last couple of weeks, definite playoff mindset in terms of playoff atmosphere. Both teams, the Texans barely have the tiebreaker on us right now because of divisional or conference.
I think they're 8. Are they 8 or are they 7?
I can't remember, but they have like one more conference win than
that. We're all the same record.
Right. So look, this is just as big a game for them as it is for us. We are on their home turf now. If we had gone into Buffalo, let's say we had won all these other games, except we blew it in Buffalo, I'd be sitting here saying, do we know how to play on the road? I'm looking at Buffalo going, I know we can play on the road. I'm not worried about that. That was after a bye week too. There were no bye week blues. This team is feeling it. They are on a roll. Teams are respecting them now. If I'm the Texans, you better hope your fans show up and are loud to give you a home field advantage, because this Broncos team is, I think, hungrier than the Texans are. This Broncos team has been through worse and is finally seeing the positive results and are hungrier for it. And I think that's going to be the deciding factor in the game.
Yeah. I don't think I could have said it better, my friend.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, again, thanks for joining us. Like John said, check out all of our other content throughout the week. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get all of our daily videos. I put up one from clips from the game yesterday if you weren't able to go. And you can see some of the highlights from the game that we saw in the stands. It's just glad you're all here. Thanks for tuning in. If you're listening to us on the podcast platforms, look, guys, this is a great time to be a Broncos fan for the first time since the Peyton Manning era. This feels real and it looks real, So I think it's time. If you're not buying into this yet, I think it's time you start asking, why have I not bought into this yet? Because all the players have. Every single one of them is fully on board with this, and it's looking great, man. So, John, I'm looking forward to a lot more of these post-game shows with us talking about Broncos W's.
Is this what it's like, Kevin? How many seasons?
This is what it's like. You just sit here and just like, oh God, here we go.
Where we did do good this week.
Yeah.
This is a fun time to be a Broncos fan. And it's to the point where it's like you go into a game and it's like, we should win this game. Like There's not a game on the schedule with the way we're playing right now that I'm like, oh, and it's changing week by week too. Like even a week or two ago, we were talking about that Lions game. Like, yeah, that's gonna be a loss probably. It's getting to the point where it's like, there's no reason why we can't win every single game. Now, is that likely to happen? I don't think so. That's not how the NFL seems to work. But streaks happen, man. Streaks happen, and
streaks end.
I'm getting closer to the feeling that 12-5 is not, as crazy of it's not as much of a joke the way that we can.
Well, when we're 1-5 and we say, "Cool, we're gonna go 12-5."
Well, yes,
99% of people
every week that we continue to win, it's like
now it's like,
down?
Oh crap, we have a winning record. That first number in the record is bigger than the second number. Yeah, that is much more in the realm of possibility now. You probably only got 50% of people going, yeah, there's no way. The other half of people are sitting there going, don't say that yet. Like, these guys are looking great. Now, I just want to throw this out there. My last thought for the show for everyone. Look, to be a realist, take my orange shaded goggles off for a second. If the Broncos and when the Broncos drop a game, okay, don't panic. It's not the end of the world. We're not out of the playoffs, or in the hunt for the playoffs or anything like that. So just stick with it. This team has a lot of growing to do still. They have, the offense still has a lot of maturing to do. Yes, they're looking better. And the fact that they're improving each week is a great sign. But, you might need to take a step back to really evaluate and say, okay, we have really got to, fix these areas to learn from them. So, John, anything else?
One last thing, Kev.
Yeah.
When and if that happens, if we do lose a game for the rest of the season.
Big if.
Because I'm not backing down from what I just said about going 12-5. If we lose a game this year, it'll be very important to see how we bounce back the following week. And that, again, will be another indicator to see where this was. I'm not worried about it either, but it'll be a big indicator to see where this team truly is. Leadership, coaching, players' mentality, all that kind of stuff that we talk about every week. But if we lose a game,
lose a game. John, thank you very much, sir. Again, everybody else who tuned in while we're live, thank you for watching and all your comments and everything. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Much more interactive with the comments and everything. So we hope to see you there. Appreciate it, man. I have nothing else to say. You?
I think there's nothing else to say. Two words to say.
Ooh. Well, and as we always do, and a very strong Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Take care, everyone.